So today, we're going to talk about the absolutely wild story of Moltbot. This was a project that promised to give every single one of us our own personal AI assistant, like something out of a movie. But it ended up as this massive cautionary tale about hype, crypto scams, and a security nightmare that was hiding in plain sight.
I mean, just imagine that for a second. What if you had an AI that didn't just sit there and answer your questions, but one that actively worked for you, right on your own machine? We're talking about an assistant that can sort through your emails, organize your files, send messages on your behalf, and just automate the boring parts of your life running around the clock while you barely have to lift a finger. It is the ultimate productivity dream, right?
Well, seemingly out of nowhere, this open source project called Clawdbot drops, and it promised to deliver that exact fantasy. And this wasn't just another chatbot. It was a promise of a true digital butler. And the developer community, they just absolutely exploded with excitement.
Okay, so let's start with the hype, because man, before everything went sideways, this thing was a legitimate phenomenon. It completely captured the internet's imagination.
I mean, the interest was just staggering. The project blew up, hitting over 64,000 stars on GitHub. Now, for those of you who don't live on GitHub, that is a huge number. We're talking about a level of popularity that massive, well-funded projects can only dream of.
And the speed, it was just insane. It racked up 20,000 stars in its first 24 hours. That just doesn't happen. It completely blew past other viral AI projects, which has proved how hungry people were for this kind of tool.
And this wasn't just online chatter either. It was spilling into the real world. People were so hyped to get their own 24/7 AI butler that they literally started buying up hardware just to run it. We're talking Mac Minis selling out on major sites. But you know how these stories go. Just as fast as the hype built up, the first cracks started to appear.
Right, so all that explosive growth, it didn't just attract fans, it put the project right on the radar of some very big companies. And that led to a huge and ultimately a disastrous identity crisis.
Okay, so to really get what's going on here, we need to be crystal clear on what this tool actually is. It's what we call an agentic AI. Now, what does that mean? Well, unlike a simple chatbot you just talked to, this thing has agency. It can actually do stuff on your computer. It can read your files, run commands, send messages for you. And that power? Well, that's what made it so exciting, but it's also what put it on a collision course with some of the big dogs in the AI world.
And here is exactly where the trouble started. The creator, Peter Steinberger, he named the bot's little lobster mascot Claude. Cute, right? Well, the problem was the multi-billion-dollar AI company Anthropic also had a mascot named Claude for its big AI product, Claude Code. With Clawdbot going mega viral, a trademark fight was pretty much inevitable.
So yeah, Steinberger didn't really have a choice. He said it himself, flat out. I was forced to rename the account by Anthropic. Wasn't my decision. And just like that, Clawdbot had to die so something new could be born. But this simple rebrand? It was about to trigger an absolutely catastrophic chain of events.
So the next 72 hours were just a complete and utter nightmare. The rebrand from Clawdbot to Moltbot, which, by the way, is a pretty clever name, like a lobster molting its shell, it became this textbook example of how fast things can just completely fall apart online, especially when you've got crypto scammers just waiting in the shadows.
I mean, the speed of this collapse was just breathtaking. Day one, the rebrand gets forced on them. Day two, as soon as the old social media handles and the GitHub name are released, scammers snatch them up. And get this, they did it in just 10 seconds. 10! By day three, they were already using that stolen reputation to launch a massive scam.
And when I say massive scam, I am not kidding. Using those hijacked accounts, they launched a fake crypto token, the $Claude token. And because the hype was still so high, it took off. At its peak, the market cap hit an insane $16 million. And then, of course, the scammers pulled the rug, walking away with a fortune and leaving a lot of people with absolutely nothing.
And the personal toll on the creator? It was just immense. He described it as a constant storm of harassment. Scammers invading his Discord, squatting on his accounts. He said they were making his online life a living hell. So for the public, this whole thing looked like a giant crypto disaster. But that wasn't even the worst part. Not by a long shot.
See, while everyone was watching the money and the drama, a much, much more dangerous story was playing out behind the scenes. The real problem with Moltbot had nothing to do with crypto scams. It was about security. Yeah, while the internet was buzzing about the scam, actual security researchers started digging into the code that everyone was so excited about, and what they found was genuinely terrifying. It turns out the tool that promised to be your helpful personal butler could very easily let burglars in right through the front door.
Okay, so here's a perfect example. One of the huge vulnerabilities was something called prompt injection. Researchers showed how a simple attack could work. An attacker sends you an email with a hidden command buried in it. The AI, which has full access to your inbox, reads it, sees the command, and just executes it. In this case, it was a command to forward all your private emails to the attacker. The whole thing, from start to finish, a complete compromise, took just 5 minutes.
And that was just the tip of the iceberg. The problems here were deep. They were fundamental. We're talking about hundreds of these Moltbot setups found just sitting exposed on the open internet, visible on services like Shodan with zero authentication. API keys were just out in the open, user conversations were readable, and the bot, by default, ran with full unrestricted permissions to do anything on your machine. There were literally no safety rails.
One security firm summed it up perfectly with this analogy. The butler can manage your entire house. Just make sure the front door is locked. And with Moltbot, the front door wasn't just unlocked, it was wide open. So after all that chaos, what's the takeaway? What can we learn from this whole lobster-themed mess? The story of Moltbot actually gives us some really critical lessons about where we are with AI right now. The hype, the speed, and the massive gap between a cool demo and a product that's actually safe to use.
You see, Moltbot was a perfect example of what some people are calling vibe coding. Now, this is kind of a new term for an old idea, but it's been supercharged by AI. It's all about using AI to generate code that works really, really fast. You can spin up a working demo in just a few hours. But here's the crucial part. Working is not the same as production ready, and it is definitely not the same as safe.
So, what's the difference? What takes you from a vibe-coded demo to a secure application you can actually trust? Well, it all comes down to the boring, fundamental stuff that Moltbot was missing. Things like having authentication on everything, treating all input like it's malicious until proven otherwise, giving the tool the absolute minimum level of permissions it needs to do its job and nothing more. And, of course, proper logging and monitoring. In the world of real software, these aren't just good ideas. They are non-negotiable requirements.
And that really brings us to the big question here. The story of Moltbot is a perfect snapshot of this moment in AI. We are building unbelievably powerful tools at a pace that is just breathtaking. The capabilities are exploding. But as we all race ahead, this whole mess forces us to stop and ask a really important question. Are our safety and security practices actually keeping up? Our AI tools are getting smarter, for sure, but are we getting any safer?